Hello everyone. Today we have our distinguished guest, Professor Ankur Barua. He is the professor in the Faculty of Divinity, University of Cambridge, UK. And this is our really great privilege for us to welcome sir. Welcome sir here
Thank
at
you for inviting me.
this Education Technology Lab at Open Learning Development Center, campus of Open Learning, School of Open Learning, University of Delhi. Sir, when I was in the St. Stephen's College, at that time, Sir was there as a block tutor, and he was the faculty over there in the Department of Philosophy. And Sir, can you tell us about your journey, the way, because Sir is also from the physics background, so I would like to know about your journey as you have drifted towards philosophy.
Yeah, so my first degree was in physics. And when people know about this, they are often surprised and they say to me, how did you change from physics to philosophy? And these are two completely disconnected universes. And in many respects, physics and philosophy are indeed quite distinct disciplines. But let's say when I was studying physics, I was interested in certain types of meta questions, such as what is the structure of reality? Does time have a beginning? Does space have an end? And these kinds of questions, which I was interested in when I was studying physics, are often not directly addressed within physics. And these are questions which you could say lie at the borderline between physics and philosophy. So slowly and slowly I became interested in questions that we may call the philosophy of physics. And then I moved into disciplines such as philosophy of science and philosophy of religion. And today I study religion, the category of religion, from multiple perspectives: philosophical, anthropological, sociological, and so on. So that has been my journey from an intellectual point of view. I have moved on the spectrum from physics to philosophy to the study of religion.
Yeah, this is really nice, amazing, like the way in which you have explained. Sir, I would like to know about like what kind of experience do you have studying in Cambridge University, because you worked and studied over there.
Yeah.
So tell us about your experience at the University of Cambridge.
I mean, is there any particular dimension of that experience you want
Yeah,
to know
so
from?
first I would like to know, as a student,
Yeah.
what kind of experience you had over there, and later on you joined as the faculty over there. So in both respects, I would like to know what kind of experience do you have.
Yeah, so my first recollection of going to Cambridge in around 1998 as a student is that life there was, by life I mean academic life, was so deeply intensive, in the sense that there was always some timeline I was working towards.
Yes.
And there were always so many books to read and so many articles to read. And by read, I don't just mean reading them in a passive manner, in a thoughtful, reflective manner, and trying to understand what those books and articles are trying to say, and recapitulate and rephrase those arguments in my own words. So initially, it was quite a big challenge for me. So trying to know how the structure works, how the system works. When you go to a new place, there's always a challenge.
Yeah.
It's not just going to Cambridge. It could be you're moving from a small town in India to Delhi, let's say.
Yes.
And trying to understand how a different system works. But when I joined Cambridge as a university teaching officer, things were slightly easier, because once you have been part of a system, when you revisit the system or go back to the system, then you know how the system works. So rejoining Cambridge in 2013 was not very difficult for me, but I do remember having many challenges as a young student in 1998, 99 in Cambridge.
Okay. That's really nice. Sir, as we know, in physics, or the language of universe, we can say that's the mathematics.
Well,
So mathematics is the language of physics. And how do you feel the maths has its own in-depth philosophy? So is it having some impact or correlation with the philosophical thoughts also?
yeah. So, there is a sub-discipline of philosophy called philosophy of mathematics. And say, what is it that people who do philosophy of mathematics are trying to answer or trying to address? What kinds of questions and themes they're trying to answer? One is just a version of what you were pointing to just now, that mathematics seems to have this wonderful, amazing ability to give us the fundamental backbone of how the universe works, right? So right now we are using technology. It is ultimately based on some kinds of mathematical formulations.
Yes.
When we fly from London to Delhi, these are the laws of fluid dynamics.
Yes.
So no matter what we are doing, there is a mathematical description of a particular, can be replicated readily from China to India to Germany to somewhere in South America. So that could be one.
Yes.
A different type of question that some philosophers are interested in asking is whether the beautiful structures of mathematics are just developed by the human mind, or are they really out there?
Yes.
Right? It could be the case that when we use the language of mathematics, we are playing one vast, gigantic video game-like simulation. And all these different equations, they fit together in a beautiful pattern, but they do not refer to anything outside the matrix.
Yes.
Or is it the case that mathematics is describing how certain processes are really, in some strong sense of really happening? Or a third possibility that mathematics is reflecting what is happening really. So all of these possibilities are what philosophers who do philosophy of mathematics
Yes.
are interested in answering, or at least trying to answer.
So can you say something about this Indian Vedantic philosophy? This is, I think, it's a core field in which you are working, like a specific branch of philosophy on which you are focusing, and what the Indian scriptures status is there under the global perspective.
Yeah, so let's put it this way, that what is shared in common to some extent between physicists, theoretical physicists, and mathematicians, philosophers of mathematics, and a style of ancient Indian Hindu thinking called Vedanta, what all of these different disciplines, ways of human thinking, what they share in common is a search for a cosmic explanation. Is a search for a description or an account or an explanation that is universal, that is universally valid, that is universally applicable. So if you speak the language of physics, we may speak the language of quantum electrodynamics, and that is universally valid. If you speak the language of mathematics, it could be a certain mathematical principle or a set of algorithms. Now, when it comes to Vedanta, the explanation or the claimed explanation is that there is this concept called Brahman, and Brahman is the absolute foundation, the ground, the foundation, the source, and the origin of everything. And Brahman is the ultimate explanation for why there is something in the world as opposed to nothing at all.
Yes.
Right. So, say for example, just to give you one concrete example of how a Vedantic argument may work, if I ask you what is the reason why this green screen behind me does not suddenly go out of existence 3 seconds after I finish asking you this question.
Yes.
So 1, 2, 3. It did not go out of existence.
Yes.
What is the explanation? One explanation that we would give as students of physics is that there are laws of physical gravitation.
Yes.
But I will push that question one step backwards, and I will say, what is it about the laws of gravitation that they do not change across time? And you may give another explanation in terms of physics, to which I will again put the same question. What is the explanation for why that principle does not change across time? Why is it time invariant, and so on? So Vedantic styles of philosophical reasoning may keep on arguing in that way, and they try to persuade you to accept that there is one fundamental principle that cannot be explained in terms of anything else. It contains its own explanation.
Yes.
So what some physicists may call matter and energy and so on is for some Vedantic theologians and philosophers the concept of Brahman.
Yes.
So there's a lot more to be said about what Vedanta is, but I'm just showing you a certain conceptual parallel between how philosophers, theoretical physicists, and Vedantic thinkers may work, how their projects may have some resonance.
Yes. So this is really nice to have such kind of interpretation. Really, it's enriching. I just want to know about, as I made one statement once in my own thought, like every high level knowledge leads towards the philosophy. Up to what extent, sir, I am correct? So can you say something about that? Because if you are so engrossed with certain field of knowledge, like you are working as an engineer, you are playing with the machines, maybe micro scale machines, and or maybe the large scale machines. Every subject is going to have its own end at the philosophical interpretation. Yeah.
So let me put it this way, that, okay, so let's start by giving or providing a kind of understanding of what philosophy is. Now, there are many ways of defining philosophy, and what philosophy is or is not itself is a meta-philosophical question. But let's put it in very simple terms. You are thinking in a philosophical way when you are thinking in a self-reflective way about what makes something possible. What are the conditions of possibility? And what do I mean by that phrase, the conditions of possibility? Generally speaking, we go through our lives without, thankfully, having to spend too much time on asking this question, what are the conditions that are making something possible? You are just told, solve this equation, and the answer is 3.8. You feed in that answer into that particular equation, you get the next answer, 9.8. Therefore, here is the aeroplane that will indeed reach Heathrow in so many hours, so many seconds and minutes. So we have a certain equation, and we plug in certain values, and we get a result. And we don't usually ask, as it were, deep questions about what is it about these equations that help us to be able to predict the future. What is it about the nature of reality that gives mathematical equations their great predictive power? And life goes on fine in a science lab, in a mathematics faculty discussion, without having to answer or even ask such deep questions. But there may be some people who are interested in not so much the what question, but the why question. Not so much what is the answer to that question, but why is it a good answer, or why are we able to answer the question in that way? And this type of an inquiry, this type of a, let's call it a self-reflexive inquiry or a pre-reflective inquiry into what makes something possible, is a philosophical type of inquiry. And most importantly, when we are asking self-reflexive questions, we should not forget the I. Who is the I who is raising this question? Who is the I who is interested in solving this problem? So I would say that in any domain of human inquiry, there are certain basic presuppositions, basic axioms, if you want to call them that, basic axioms and postulates that shape a form of inquiry. And this pre-reflective inquiry into what are those presuppositions shaping that inquiry is what I'm now calling a philosophical type of inquiry.
So this was really nice to talk to you, sir. I'm really once again thankful to you coming over here. And next time, whenever you visit India, please come over here. At last, I just want to take your message. What message you would like to give to the Indian students to match the global standards? It is not one subject related. I am asking like how the education system should function or revamp itself so that we Indian education system can be very close to the global education system standards.
Yeah, so that is a very difficult question to answer, because when you say what should we do so that systems of education in India can match the global standards. I mean, what are the global standards for starters? I mean, there's a wide variation. But instead of phrasing the question that way, I mean, we should not worry too much about global standards of the world. Let's put it this way: what should we be doing in Indian forms of education that help human beings to realize their potential? That help human beings
it should create an impact over there,
to have some kind of societal impact, to what forms of education can liberate us from forms of not knowing, let's say. Okay. Now, as to what should we be doing, what is that one thing, I don't know, but let's say one thing maybe we can try to do, we can try to cultivate certain more thoughtful, reflective forms of inquiry. And by thoughtful, reflective forms of inquiry, I mean not having this not being in a tremendous rush to answer questions, but spend some more time reflecting on the type of question we are asking and what that question actually means. Is that even a good question? How can I formulate a better question? So in some ways, it sounds a bit counterintuitive, because the whole world is about answering questions. But what I'm saying is that in certain cases, in some ways, what is even more important than answering a question is trying to spend some time carefully reflecting on the question itself. So if there's one thing that I would say that would help human beings not just to improve the quality of education, but to maybe even live more fulfilling lives, if I may put it that way, is to reflect on the questions they ask.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks a lot.